What is going on, viewers of YouTube? Sunspot here, guys. My review of Captain America: Civil War, which I saw last night at 7 p.m. at my local theater. And that was my dog, by the way, if you can't hear him. But all I have to say is it was brilliant. Probably one of the best Marvel films to date. Definitely topped The Winter Soldier. I didn't think it could, but it obviously did. And I'm not just saying that as an Iron Man fanboy. I'm saying that as a Cap fan, as a Marvel fan, as a superhero fan in general. And my dog keeps making noise. I hope that's not Hey, don't scratch my bed. That's my Iron Man sheets. I sleep on those. I love you, Snoopy. I love you. This will be a non-spoiler video, so for people who haven't seen the movie, don't worry, this is completely safe. All I'll be talking about is the balance of the story, the conflict of characters, and basically the action sequences. Starting with the runtime of the movie runs for about 2 hours and 26 minutes, including credits and the after-credits scenes, which were brilliant. Not going to say anything about them, but thank you, Russo brothers. You didn't waste a minute in this movie. You used every single minute to tell your story and to balance your characters and to transition into conflict with complete smoothness. It was really well done how these characters, who were basically family, just went against each other and started beating the living hell out of each other. It was a nice transition. They all had their own motivation, and you know, with Baron Zemo in it, and you know, him behind everything, it was just really interesting how both sides, both viewpoints of Baron Zemo and the Avengers are taken into consideration. Now, I know what many of you are thinking: does this compare to Batman vs. Superman's runtime? Well, they have very similar runtimes, but I must say this has way more action than Batman v Superman. There are large talking sequences, but those are solely for the story. They actually move the story. I know Batman v Superman really lacked in that, but don't worry, this movie, you know, it's really, really well done. I can't say much in a non-spoiler review. I can hardly talk about the story. It's all focused on Bucky, on Cap's, you know, backstory, and believe it or not, the second half of this movie is basically Iron Man 4. So with, you know, Robert Downey Jr. saying, hey, I want to do Iron Man 4. Well, buddy, you just did it. But hey, I really don't want to dive too much into story. All I'm saying is that the motivation was great for every single character. I absolutely loved the conflict between Scarlet Witch and Vision, Iron Man and Captain America, obviously, even War Machine and Sam Wilson, who's Falcon. The one thing I want to touch on is the whole Black Widow and Hawkeye theme. They were barely in the movie, especially Hawkeye. He really lacked. He had some great, you know, humor, as usual, but I just wish they would have dove more into the whole Black Widow Hawkeye versus thing a bit more. I think it could have been interesting. They're both double agents, or at least Black Widow is, and they're both assassins, so that just would have worked better. But you know, they were on a clock, so I can forgive them for that. But let's talk about Black Panther and Spider-Man. I cannot wait for the new Black Panther movie. It is going to be so epic. Chadwick Boseman, who played Black Panther, did an excellent job. He had just great characteristics. His personality was rock solid, and I just absolutely love his vibranium. That's the same crap. Point is his suit was freaking badass. It had the little problem I had with it was the eyes. I think they were a little bit too silver, not white enough, but I think they're saving that for the actual Black Panther movie. This is kind of his prototype suit, but look, it was still amazing. I loved his little vibranium claws and everything. It just worked so well. One thing was interesting, I couldn't tell when he was CGI, when he wasn't. It was really interesting. Same thing with Spider-Man. Sometimes he wore the costume, sometimes he didn't. 95% of the time, I'm pretty sure both of them were CGI, but I'm pretty sure Chadwick Boseman had more time in the actual suit than Tom Holland did in the Spider-Man suit. Speaking of Spider-Man, well done. Finally. How many years has it been? Was it 2002 when the first Spider-Man came out? I can't remember the year, but it's been hell of a long time. I like Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, or at least as Peter Parker. I thought his Spider-Man was meh. He was a great Peter Parker. Then Andrew Garfield came in. I thought he was a great Spider-Man, but I thought he was a stupid Peter Parker. Now we have Tom Holland, who is basically the better of both parts. He looks exactly like Tobey Maguire. You'll know when you see the movie, or if you have, you know what I mean. He looks exactly like him. He practically acts like him. And he's a badass Spider-Man. He has humor. He's just ridiculously funny. It's Spider-Man. When you look at him, when he talks, it's Spider-Man. One thing that kind of bothered me, I know he's supposed to be a kid, a 16-year-old kid, but I think his voice was a little too... I don't think it was deep enough. I think he sounded like a 4-year-old. Even in the original cartoons, I know he was young, but he never sounded like this. So that's one thing that bothered me. I think that's what made the humor on his part a little bit better, his voice. Just the fact that he's just a kid in a fight that's surrounded by middle-aged men in superhero costumes. But that's all I'm going to say about Spider-Man, because he has such a little part, and I don't want to spoil anything more. Just know he's the better of both halves. He's the best Peter Parker, and he's the best Spider-Man, and you're going to absolutely love him in the movie. Now let's transition to Captain America's side. Let's start with Captain America. Captain America himself. I have a little problem with this. Iron Man had a trilogy. Iron Man 3 completely sealed everything. If you guys remember, he blew up his suits, his legacy was sealed, he got with Pepper, and he basically had a happy ending. He didn't need any more movies. But I think with Captain America, he kind of got screwed over a little bit. This is an Avengers movie, guys. I know they said that, this is a Captain America movie at its core, and Captain America does hold most of the screen time, but with so many characters, you can't just help but feel this is Avengers Age of Ultron 2.0. I personally think Civil War should have been its own movie, not a Captain America movie. I think this movie should have been replaced as... I think actually at Comic-Con they announced it was going to be called Captain America Serpent Society before, and that was just a joke, before they said, oh no, it's Civil War. I think that would have been fine. Dive into Captain America's story. Finish his trilogy. Let him be the star, okay? Don't let Iron Man or Spider-Man or Black Panther take the spot. Let Captain America have his final movie. Point is, he didn't get a proper ending to his trilogy. Too many characters, not enough Cap. I'm not saying it was a bad movie. I freaking loved the movie. It was a great Avengers movie, but not necessarily a wonderful Captain America movie like The Winter Soldier. Now let's talk about Ant-Man. If you guys have seen the Marvel Legends pictures, the Lego sets, you know why I loved Ant-Man in this movie. I'm not saying anything, but you're gonna like Ant-Man. Scarlet Witch, yeah. So, her accent really got toned down in this movie. It was super heavy and way too try-hard in Avengers Age of Ultron with the whole Sokovian accent. She sounded like an idiot, okay? I'm not saying Scarlet Witch is a horrible superhero. I freaking love her in the comics. She's a great character. But Elizabeth Olsen trying to pull off that Russian-esque accent don't really work. So they really toned it down with this movie. I think the Russo brothers knew what Joss Whedon did wrong in Avengers Age of Ultron, so I'm glad they toned down her accent just a bit. Now, believe it or not, Scarlet Witch is a huge, huge part of this movie. I'm not going to say anything, I'm not going to spoil, but let's just say she is the beginning of conflict. Hawkeye, like I was saying earlier, not enough Hawkeye. Whenever he was there, he shined. He had one of the best, one of the funniest moments in the film, as he did with Avengers Age of Ultron, but I think there should have been more of him. And Falcon, he's Falcon. Believe it or not, Red Wing was really cool. I kind of preferred if he was an actual bird, like in the comics, and then I think Falcon actually controlled him with his mind or some kind of technology or something. I forget, but he was an animatronic in this movie, but it was kind of cute. And of course, Winter Soldier. He was a pretty much badass. They really dove into his character more so they did in Winter Soldier, in Cap 2 I mean, and they showed more of his backstory, of what happened to him after he fell off that train in the first Cap movie. And, I don't want to spoil anything. Like I said, this is a spoiler-free video, but you're going to love what they do with this character. They really dive in deep. They really make you feel sorry for him, make you hate him at the same time. So, you're going to love Winter Soldier. The movie is Winter Soldier, so You're gonna love them. Now let's talk about the villains. When you think Civil War, well, good guys fighting good guys. Yeah, there are bad guys in the film. Baron Zemo. Baron Zemo. He should have wore his purple mask. Wait, and that's not a spoiler. Everybody knew that. You know, he's not wearing his purple mask. The directors confirmed that a while back. But he was amazing in the movie when he was there. He shined. He had wonderful motivation. I heard before this movie his motivation is ridiculously rock solid. He had just clear intention, and you're gonna like what they do with Baron Zemo. He's absolutely wonderful. And again, I wish he wore his purple mask. That would have been so freaking cool. However, if you are a huge Baron Zemo fan, you're gonna be very disappointed with what they do with his character. I know he's like this huge badass villain in the comics, but that completely changes in this movie. Literally, it's like he's a completely different character with the same name. There's also Crossbones, who's in it for like 5 minutes. But when he is there, he's beautiful. I'm getting the Hot Toys Crossbones, by the way, because Crossbones was so cool. Man, Brock Rumlow was so badass. One thing I'm going to complain about, as I did with Spider-Man, his voice. Is it just me, or in Cap 2 did he have a much deeper voice like this? Like he was kind of badass, and now he's just like, hey, how you doing? You know, it was weird seeing him in such a badass, bulky costume with crossbones painted on it, and then he sounds like a 4-year-old. Don't get me wrong, I absolutely loved his character. He was great in that action sequence between him and Cap in that whole plaza area. Great. You know, there should have been more of him. There should have been more of him. I would love a solo movie of him, because he's so badass. Just do a solo movie. Now let's talk about action sequences, right? Hell yeah! Actually, I read a bit ago that the people who worked on John Wick, the action scenes in John Wick, worked on the choreography and some action sequences in this movie, and you can tell. It was one of the best action sequences I've seen in a long time, in not only Marvel movies, in action movies in general. Specifically, of course, the airport scene, the most hyped action scene of the last 2 years, or however long since the first trailer came out. The airport battle was so cool! Avengers versus Avengers, with Ant-Man's new ability, plus Spider-Man and Black Panther. God damn, it was badass! I think I cried a little bit, honestly. I think I legitimately shed a tear halfway through that airport scene. And, you know, this didn't last just 5 minutes. This lasted like 10 to 15 minutes. This was a long action scene. And, you know, I know what you guys are thinking. Well, you know, epic finales in Marvel movies always have those long action sequences. Those are usually between, 1 or 2 characters. Like in the first Iron Man, he fought Ironmonger for the last 10 to 15 minutes, and that was pretty epic. But or in Avengers 1, you know, they fought the Chitauri for a long ass time, but this one was even longer. It was more epic, and just the fact that Avengers versus Avengers happened, beautiful. You Russo brothers, good job. You know, with Infinity War coming out with 67 characters confirmed, what the hell is going to happen? But the actual finale, which I'm not going to say anything about, I'm not going to say literally anything, just so you know, the finale, like we all knew, it was that whole scene in the trailer with Iron Man versus Bucky and Cap. I almost cried. I legitimately almost cried. It's sad to say that a grown man, such as myself, nearly started bawling in the theater. That's it. I almost bawled. Seriously, that ending was just, it hit me hard. You know, I grew up with this since I was a tiny one. To see my most beloved characters do certain things to each other that you wouldn't really expect, not even from the trailers, hits home. But then again, I'm not going to say anything. Okay, I'm not going to say anything. This is a spoiler-free video. I just want to talk about how amazing this movie was, how you should go see it. I'm going to go see it 6 more times. Literally, I'm going to go see it as many times as possible. And I know that a lot of people are like, oh, it's so long, it's 2.5 hours. Yeah. But if you're a true comic fan like myself, you wish it was like 4.5 hours. And yes, I am one of those people who actually like Batman v Superman. It was even longer, and I'd love to see it a few more times, because I love that movie. But I think Civil War was overall the better civil movie, because, you know, Batman and Superman fought, Iron Man, Cap fought, so, you know. But I think this one was a bit better, as much as I liked Batman v Superman. However, I am going to end it off here, because I actually have work in, like, let's see what time is in, oh god, I gotta leave now. Okay, I gotta leave. I gotta go. This video will be uploaded later tonight. I really have to go to work. I'm already late. Oh god. Okay. If you did enjoy this video, please like, subscribe, comment, check out my site at sunspotreviews.com, and I will see you guys in my next video.